Did you know National School Choice Week is January 26th to February 1st? Well, it's not for kids to decide if they want to go to school. It's rather for parents to know about different schooling options that are out there. And joining me today to talk about some of those lesser-known alternatives is Jamie Gass from the Pioneer Institute to talk about schooling options in general, Huda Alawa to talk about being homeschooled herself, and Karen Reuter from SABIS International Charter School to talk about being a charter school. Thank you all so much for joining me today to talk about National School Choice Week. Jamie, we're going to start with you. Talk about the fact that there are options out there. People in their minds may think, oh, there's public and private school, and that's it. But not quite the case.
So here in Massachusetts, we're really fortunate. We're the highest performing state in the country and internationally competitive in math and science. And that really is due to a big education reform and effort that was started about 20 some odd years or so ago. But the fact is that there are still deep pockets of chronic underperformance, particularly in our low-performing cities, places like Springfield and Holyoke. And that's why we think that the conversation around charter schools, virtual schools, voc tech schools, as well as private and parochial schools, that this is really the mechanism to help bridge achievement gaps and gives kids the opportunities that they're really entitled to.
We're going to come back to you about different options available as well, but since we have someone that's been homeschooled and we have someone from the charter school angle, we're going to talk about those aspects, and then we'll come back to you about virtual academies and other options that are out there for people to take advantage of. So Karen, talk about being a charter school. What is the difference? I guess people don't realize that that option is available to them. What's the difference between you're not a public school, you're not a private school, kind of in the middle of both?
Well, we are a public school.
Okay.
And but a charter school has a slightly different accountability system and how that they are measured in terms of their success. It's a bit different system than a traditional public school. But charter schools organize around a mission, something that they sort of formulate so that they can build a program that will support that mission. Having these type of programs in place and the ability to communicate that allows parents to make informed decisions about whether a charter school is able to meet their child's educational needs. I think they can be informed about that.
So you mentioned that you are a public school, and that's even my misperception that, oh, well, I wouldn't think a charter school is the same as a public or private.
Yes.
So this option could be available to parents that don't see their child excelling in a public school.
Well, charter schools often have different focuses and different programmatic options that might very well meet a child's needs better than the traditional public school. And charter schools are held accountable on a 5-year charter, so the state would really decide whether this school is performing at its best levels and whether or not it is allowed to continue. You know, our school is 19 years old. We have a very strong track record. I think in '95 it was an experiment, but I think at this point charter schools are a very viable option for families.
Okay. Now, before we get to Huda about being homeschooled, which is another option yet available, we were talking a little bit off camera about virtual academies. That's definitely not as well known, but it still is an option that it seems like maybe they've struggled a little bit to really get a grasp here in Massachusetts as opposed to other states, would you say?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So the oldest and best respected virtual school in the country is the Florida Virtual School. That's been in operation since 1997. And the reality of it is that they provide an incredible educational opportunity for kids that some of them may have special needs, they may have emotional needs, they may be athletes that travel a great deal, or they just want to have the experience that they're going to have ultimately in higher education where they're going to be taking courses online. And the performance of the Florida Virtual School is stunning. And what we've really been trying to do is encourage policymakers here in Massachusetts to replicate the Florida Virtual School type model in the state. We've just had one virtual school up in Greenfield, which has since closed in the last couple of years, and the performance wasn't really that great. And I think that part of what we advocate for, whether it's with charter schools or voc tech schools or virtual schools, is making sure that kids have access to high quality schools. That kids shouldn't be stuck in bad schools, whether they're virtual schools or charter schools or traditional public schools.
Okay. Now, Huda, your option that you went through, the homeschooling option, is not public, it's not private in the sense of it's a private school, but it's private in the sense of it's very family oriented. Talk about being homeschooled.
So I was homeschooled because my mom didn't really like the other options that there were as much. And the way we did homeschooling is that we pulled curriculum from a bunch of different sites. So we did actually some virtual school with the Florida program. And then I would take classes at community colleges or at Harvard Extension, and also take classes at home. So it was very much eclectic. You could just pull whatever you wanted. And that allowed me to delve more further into my own interests instead of feeling confined to like the public school regime. So it was very alternative, but it allowed for a more independent learning in a way.
And you had mentioned, we were talking about this on Twitter, social media of all places, you said it didn't kind of put you in that gender stereotype that maybe other options would have put you in. Explain that. What did you mean by that?
Okay, so I was homeschooled my entire life, and throughout that I did a lot of sciencey things. I did biotech camps, I did robotics, I actually went to nationals with one of the robotics tournaments. So I never felt the need to, I was never really exposed to the idea that women can't do science or math. I was used to women are empowered because my mother did teach me math, and I went to programs where there were women leaders in the sciences or in the maths. So I wasn't ever exposed to this idea that women can only do social science. So even now, I go to Mount Holyoke College, which is an all-girls school, and it's surprising to me that people are used to women do social science and humanities only, because you do notice that at the 5 college area especially. So it's very interesting to me that I had never experienced that personally, and I do think very much of it is based off of my homeschooling career.
Did you ever deal though with somebody that maybe had a prejudice against homeschoolers, or there was a certain stigma attached, like, oh, you must be like this person that's cut off from all, social life, so you must have no social life or friends, and a recluse, and like you're just stuck in this little, you don't know how to interact with the general public? Do you ever?
All the time. One of my closest friends yesterday, actually, she was saying, I keep forgetting that you're homeschooled because you're so socially adaptable. And even a professor once told me that he couldn't believe that I was homeschooled because I was socially competent, which was really surprising. So you do deal with those stereotypes a lot. But that's also because there's such a wide range of different types of homeschoolers. There are some that are obviously socially awkward, but you're going to find that in public schools as well, But there are plenty that are completely normal. Just because you're homeschooled doesn't mean you're sitting in your house. There are actually homeschool cooperatives. My family went to one in Acton, Massachusetts. It's called Voyagers. And essentially it has a bunch of homeschoolers. They have different classes going on there, and you spend 1 or 2 days a week there just hanging out with other homeschoolers while also taking classes. So it's a very different environment. I think it just doesn't confine you to the same people all the time.
Correct. Yeah. Now, and so we've learned about many different aspects already of the different schooling options available. We were talking about how more parents want options available to them. I think the stats say 73% of Americans support school choice, but 64% of parents, if given the financial opportunity, would send their children to a different school than the one that they attend. So talk about the importance of parents realizing that there are options out there if you feel your child is not excelling.
Sure. I mean, I think when you look around at the landscape of where people live, what kind of car they drive, what they buy to for their homes and clothing, there's a lot of options out there. But the fact is that when it comes to public schooling or schooling in this country, there are not a lot of options, and that's why we think that given that there's these deep pockets of underperformance, or that it's a basic human need and desire to choose what it is that's best suited for your own children and your educational experience, that these charter schools, these independent public schools that have a stunning record, the Stanford University's Credo Institute came out with a report just in the last year or so that cited that the Massachusetts charter public schools are the gold standard. They're the best in the country. Across the country, the charter school record is somewhat mixed, but in Massachusetts, they are the best. They pointed out that 1 year in a high-performing charter school in Massachusetts is really like having 2 years in a traditional public school. And so we're really hoping to continue to lift the caps. There are legislative caps that prohibit parents from sending their kids to the public schools, and we want to lift those caps, and we think that that's necessary, and they've got a proven record to do that.
Karen, have you seen any examples of somebody that's come from a different background, whether it's a public school, private school, any other background, and then has come to the charter school and has excelled, or just a difference in their demeanor or learning? Do you see that?
I think that certainly we are a K-12 school. We have almost 1,600 students. So in any given year, we have lots of new students coming in. If a student has moved, I mean, we have a very high retention rate. People don't usually leave, except if they're moving out of the community. But generally, we do see students coming in from other schools, and sadly, they are often 2 to 3 grade levels below the standards that we operate with. And that can be very challenging for them, but I think that immediately they sense that there's a far tighter accountability. We often have to say, keep in mind, no one is going to fail in peace here, and you might not be accustomed to adults being very involved in your academic success. That's a very different feeling. I think that the culture of our school is one that does take some time for children to adjust to. It's very powerful, and it is one that allows all students to be successful.
All right. And Huda, Jamie, Karen, thank you all so much for joining me to talk about this.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.